I want to talk to you today specifically if you are terrified of labor. If just the thought of it makes your stomach like tighten up and drop, if you've gone down the Google rabbit hole, girl, I see you, at midnight and scared yourself half to death. If you've watched someone else's birth story and thought, there's no way I can do that, this episode is for you. Because here's what I want you to know before we even get into it. Fear about labor is one of the most normal things in the world. I have watched thousands of births over 16 years as a high-risk labor and delivery nurse, and I can tell you that the women who walk through the doors scared, even the ones who look a little calm on the outside that were terrified on the inside, that doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means you're realizing this is a big deal, but maybe you didn't prep completely the way that you could. So here's the thing, and this is what I tell every woman I work with. Fear that isn't addressed doesn't just go away when labor starts. It actually makes labor harder. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Hey, I'm Trish. I am a certified birth geek. I'm obsessed with birth, a former high-risk labor and delivery nurse, and this is the Birth Experience Podcast. So welcome. My whole thing is giving you the honest, the real information that your doctor doesn't have time for, your labor nurse doesn't have time for, so that you can walk into your birth feeling prepared and confident instead of freaking out and scared. And so, girl, if that's what you're looking for, you are in the right place, because today we are getting into something I feel so strongly about, which is fear and labor. Specifically, where your fear comes from, what it actually does to your body during labor, and what I personally tell the moms I work with who come to me terrified. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a completely different relationship with that fear. I promise you that. I promise you that. So let's get into it. So let's just start with where the fear actually comes from, because I think when you can understand that, it already takes that grip and loses some of its power. Most of what you know about birth before you experience it, yourself, comes from one of three places. It comes from TV and movies, where birth is always like this dramatic, like woman pulling her hair out, like emergency situation, because that makes a better television show than the reality of birth. It comes from other people's birth stories. And here's the things about birth stories. People love to tell the dramatic ones, the long labors, the scary moments, the things that went wrong. Like, nobody is coming to you and being like, let me share my straightforward, beautiful birth experience with that same enthusiasm as the people telling you the horror stories. So you end up with this very skewed sample of what birth actually looks like. Then the third place fear comes from is just the unknown. Labor is the thing you've never done before, and your brain does not love what you don't know. So the unknown, bad. So by the time most women get to the end of their pregnancy, they've been marinating in this fear soup for months. And that fear is built almost entirely on information that is incomplete, exaggerated, or just flat out not representative of what most birth looks like. Now, before we completely get started, if you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. We're trying to grow that channel. So please make sure you hit subscribe. And you guys all know I want you to leave a comment or review. Now, let's get back into talking about fear. Here's where it gets really important, because this is the part that I don't think gets talked about enough. Fear has a direct physiological effect on your labor. This isn't just a mindset thing. This is proven. It's biology. When you're scared, your body releases stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and those hormones hate oxytocin. They are the enemy of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone that drives your contractions, makes them stronger, and helps your labor progress. So when fear goes up high, right, oxytocin slows down and it struggles. Your cervix can actually slow its progress. Your contractions can become more painful because your muscles are tense and working against each other. This is not what we want. Your body is essentially in a fight or flight state, and fight or flight is the opposite of what you need for labor. There's actually a term for this. It's called the fear, tension, pain cycle. It was identified by a doctor named Grantley Dick Reed decades ago, and it's still one of the most relevant concepts in birth education today. Fear creates tension. tension creates pain. Pain creates more fear, and around it goes. And that just shuts the door for the baby to come out. So when I say that addressing fear isn't just a nice to do, it's actually something you have to do as a clinical thing. And I mean that. So getting your fear under control before you walk into labor, before your labor starts, is one of the most powerful things you can do to set yourself up for a better birth experience. Now, what do I actually tell the mamas who come to me terrified? There are a few things I come back to every time. The first thing I tell them is this: your body is incredible and it was built for this. And I know that sounds like something I should put on a motivational poster, right? Something you read on a little motivational poster, but I want you to sit with that for a second because it's so freaking true. And I don't care how many times you've seen it on Instagram, it's true in a very literal biological sense. Your pelvis is designed to accommodate a baby moving through it. Your cervix is designed to thin and open. Your uterus is the most powerful muscle in the human body. It knows what to do. You are not asking your body to do something crazy that it wasn't made for. You are asking it to do exactly what it was made for. The next thing that I tell my mamas is that labor is not one long, uninterrupted wall of pain. This is the image people have, this idea labor starts and then it's just relentless agony until the baby comes out. That is not what labor is. Labor has a rhythm. Contractions come and they go. And even in active labor, even at the most intense part, you have breaks between the contractions and your body gives you rest. And during those breaks, a lot of women are actually talking and laughing and breathing and snoozing and snoring. The body is incredibly good at giving you what you need between the hard moments. The third thing I always say is that you have more control than you think. This is a big one for me because I spent 16 years at the bedside watching the system. And one of the things that genuinely bothered me and drove me to create Labor Nurse Mama was how often women felt like things were just happening to them instead of feeling like they were a part of the decision making. And so much of that comes down to being informed. When you know what your options are, when you understand what's happening inside you and around you, what interventions are and why they should be used or not used, when you know the questions to ask, when you know that you can advocate for yourself, labor stops feeling like this runaway train and starts feeling like something you're moving through with intention. And that shift is enormous. And here's the fourth thing. And this one is maybe the most important thing I say to scared mamas. I tell them that their fear actually means something really good. It means you care. And it means this baby matters a lot to you. And it means that you are taking this seriously. The moms who are terrified are usually the moms who are doing the work, educating themselves, preparing, showing up. Fear is not your enemy here. Uninformed fear is the enemy. Fear with no outlet, fear with no information, fear with no plan. That's what we want to address. But the caring underneath the fear, that's a gift. So what do you actually do with all of this? The first thing is education. And I know that seems obvious coming from me, but I mean real education. Not Google at midnight, not birth stories on TikTok. Actual evidence-based information about what labor looks like, what your options are, and what the process is. When your brain has real information to work with, it stops filling in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. The second thing is finding a birth class that actually prepares you rather than just showing you a breathing technique and calling it a day. A good birth class teaches you the physiology of what's happening in your body, helps you understand your options, especially for having a hospital birth, and gives you tools to actually use in the moment. The third thing is practicing relaxation. This sounds like hokey doke, right? Or soft, but it's not. It is a clinical skill. The ability to consciously release tension in your body when a contraction hits is a superpower. And it's something you can practice and get better at before labor starts, whether that's through breathing or meditation or hypnobirthing techniques, whatever resonates with you. Practice it. And this is why we teach it inside the classes, because the version of you who has practiced that skill is going to have a very different experience than the version of you who is trying to figure it out for the first time in the middle of a contraction. And the fourth thing is to get your birth support locked in. Who is going to be in that room with you? What do they know about your wishes? Have you talked through what you want? Because having a person, whether that's your partner, a doula, a family member who is calm and prepared and knows how to support you is one of the most powerful things you could do for your fear. You do not have to do this alone. I want to leave you with this. I have watched thousands of births. I have walked through over 15,000 birth course students. I have seen women who came in absolutely terrified, go on to have experiences that they describe as the most powerful thing they've ever been through. Not because it was easy and not because their birth was perfect or pain-free, which y'all know how I feel about that, but because they got through it. And they knew what was happening. They knew what was being said to them. They knew how to make decisions. They felt supported. And on the other side of it, they found out something about themselves that they didn't know before. And that can be you. That is available to you. And the fact that you're here listening to this, doing the work, you're already on your way. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, leave a review. If you're ready to be educated and supported through my birth classes and get to hang out with me a couple times a month on Zoom, go to labornursemama.com/calm, CALM, and join the #1 online birth course that comes with your own high-risk labor nurse. As always, I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.